Monday morning begins with a 4-kilometre aerobic run to work. Once I get to work, I coach a client, and then between that client and my next client, I do an upper body workout. I like to try and stay pretty well-rounded with my fitness, so this is why I try and get some upper body work in. I do quite a few pull-ups, I'll do some pushing movements, and then I'll kind of do some work on some of the smaller muscle groups, and that just helps me feel, pretty well-rounded physically. After I finish coaching my second client, I run home. The rest of Monday was just work, admin and stuff, so we're on to Tuesday. Tuesday is a rest day, so as you can see here, I basically just do my normal mobility routine on a Tuesday morning, and that's mostly all I do at the moment. Sometimes I might cycle to the gym to coach clients in the afternoon, but not every week. It just depends a little bit on how I'm feeling and what the weather's doing. I did spend a reasonable chunk of this Tuesday clearing the living room to make space for a new desk. Wednesday is a pretty busy training day. I get up pretty early in the morning and I go and do a hill rep session or whatever other kind of run I can fit in that day. At the minute we're on long hill reps up on one of the hills near my house. And then later in the day I will head down to the gym to do my strength work. So on a Wednesday it's usually something squat focused. So I'll do some heavy squats. I might do some additional squat exercises. So I might add front squats in there as well. And then I will spend the rest of the workout doing kind of movements that are a bit more focused on injury resistance. So single leg work, focusing on like smaller muscle groups and just making sure the body's nice and robust and ready to take on anything I'm going to throw at it. Thursdays I typically run down to the climbing gym and I will spend about an hour doing some climbing. This was a bit of a weird session, to be honest. I couldn't really get into a groove. I was just sort of struggling to find my momentum a little bit. Didn't really have any big wins on this session, which is a bit frustrating, but it happens. I like climbing because it's just kind of it's an exercise that's very different to running, so it's moving my joints in different directions, which I think is good. When you're doing a lot of running, it can not be particularly helpful to just be doing the same repetitive movement patterns over and over. Once I ran home, I then spent the rest of the day building my desk and setting up the initial stage of it. Alright, Friday is my usual long run day. So we're doing 21k today. Now, we are only just over 7 weeks out from the race, so 21k for a long run might sound a little bit short. However, in the past I have experienced issues when focusing my long run length, making that kind of like the focal point of the week, and then kind of constructing the mileage around it. Whereas now that I've switched to deciding what my mileage is and then calculating a long run distance that is no more than 30% of that, I've had much better results in terms of not picking up niggles or like pre-injury sensations. A hilly 21k on mostly trails is the kind of thing I can cover really comfortably now. So I'm in a good position in terms of my aerobic capacity. Last week I did about 22k in the snow. That took me about 3 hours, so I know like if the conditions are bad I can still move fairly well, and if the conditions are good then I'm dead comfortable. So really over the next few weeks before I start my taper, I'm just going to be refining that a little bit. So my long run next week will be a bit longer, and then I'll have a couple of weeks of back-to-back long runs just to really kind of make sure my legs get some idea of what they're going to feel like on the day. And then my peak week, I'm going to be doing the Hope Valley round and treating that as a bit of a race effort, just to kind of make sure I'm happy with my nutrition strategy and that I'm happy with my pacing and stuff. And I think I can complete that in a bit under 4 hours if the conditions aren't really bad. So that'll kind of be the final test to make sure I'm ready, and then after that it's just a good taper. Alright, in the interest of making sure we're being upfront about the highs and the lows of training, we're not going to get 21k done today, I don't think. Got a stitch, which is unfortunately something I'm quite prone to, and I get more prone to them kind of as I'm approaching my period. I don't really care if you think that's too much information. It happens to a lot of people, and these kind of like hormonal cycles do affect a lot of runners. Even if you're male, you have a hormonal cycle. It's obviously a bit different, but it will have an impact on your training to some extent, not as much as if you're female. So these things do have to be taken into consideration, and when I'm kind of coming up to my period, I just have to be aware that I might not have as much energy in that kind of week before, and I might get stitches that just fully stop me from doing the run that I want to do. Like at the minute, I was able to run for maybe about 300 meters in one go back there, but stitch just kicked back in again, and it's not shifting. I can still feel it, like even after walking a bunch. Is what it is. Just got to deal with it, really. So I'm not going to get 21k done because I'm going to be walking most of it. It's going to take me too long, and I've got other things to do today. So yeah, it's just a little insight into when it doesn't quite go according to plan. Don't let it drag on you. I'll make the mileage up on Saturday or Sunday, so it'll get done, but it's just not going to get done today, which means I'm not going to get a long run in today, but I'm not too worried about that because I've still got a few weeks of mileage build up and more long runs, so it's not something I'm worrying about. Okay, I do want to add that I do my best to try and run when I get stitches, but it's so painful. I have quite a high pain tolerance, and it's so painful. I can't really breathe when it kicks in really badly. So it is a case of I have to walk it off, and if it's not shifting with being walked off, there's really nothing I can do about it other than stop. But obviously I've got to get home, so we'll muddle on home. Saturday I did parkrun Sandwich in the morning, ran there, did parkrun, ran back, then I ran to work. While I was at work, I did my strength workout, which on Saturday is deadlift focused. You can see I'm doing some trap bar deadlifts here, and then I followed that up with some deficit RDLs. And once I'd done that, I did some small muscle group movements, just single leg work and whatnot, keeping on top of the injury resistance and making sure all the kind of like little bits of muscles that get neglected the rest of the time are just, taking care of them, making sure everything's in good shape. Sunday, I headed out into the fells and got a very cold, frosty run in to finish off the week.